That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 840-0750. That's 840-0750.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 6 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I like getting my tires changed on my car. It's a weird thing to say, isn't it? I like getting my tires changed on my car. Do you know why I like getting my tires changed on my car, Robin?
Why?
Because when you get your tires changed...
Smell good?
No. Because when you get your tires changed, there's nothing you can do. You have to let them have your car, and then you have to go into that little area where they have a TV and little gumball machine and stuff like that, and magazines, and you just have to basically sit there. So you can't do anything, you know?
Right.
I guess you could preoccupy yourself with books or with your phone or something like that, but it's basically you do nothing. And sometimes, because we're so workaholic-ish, you know, we constantly have to do something, constantly have to be producing results, constantly have to be running around, right? It's kind of like, it's nice to be forced to just stop. Right?
Yeah, right.
And I've often thought, why don't I just force myself to stop every day? Why do I have to wait till I spend, $800 on tires?
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't I just stop? Well, that's the message that a lot of people have been trying to tell us all along. Why don't you meditate? Give yourself some time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it, but we're going to learn right now. Rolf Gates is on the phone. I don't know if he's going to talk about changing tires. Rolf is the co-founder of the Yoga, Meditation, and Recovery Conference at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California. Hope I said the Esalen right. We'll find out in a second. And the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health in Lenox, Massachusetts. He's on both sides of the country. He's a yoga teacher who conducts yoga workshops, retreats, teacher trainings, and coaching and mentorship. His book is called Meditations on Intention and Being, Daily Reflections on the Path of Yoga, Mindfulness, and Compassion. I know nothing about yoga, Robin, but it always sounds like when you get your tires changed. That's what it always sounds like. Just a moment of peace. I know it sounds weird. Rolf Gates, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Can I just say before we get started that I actually loved your intro. I think that teaching people about yoga by using something that's simple and something everyone's experienced is just really smart education. So good job, Larry.
Well, thank you. Do you know, if I lived in, I don't live in a place where I commute on a public, I drive my own car, in other words. But if I still lived in New York and I had to take that train into the city every day, even though people said they hated the train, but that's a moment. You're just sitting there. You got nothing to do. You can ohm. You go ohm. Do you know? I mean, is that what meditation is about? Is it about giving yourself some time to just breathe?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's such a vote of confidence in the average, human being that if you just spend a little time in your own company, you're going to come into physical well-being, you're going to come into wisdom, you're going to come into compassion for yourself and others. Like all of this is available to you. Like the analogy they use is that we're like a wave that's forgotten the ocean. And what happens when you're, sitting in the, tire place or you're sitting on the train, if you just kind of look out the window and relax a little bit, is that as a wave, you start to feel the presence of the ocean within you and all around you. And it's like a little mystical, but you kind of can get it, right? That there's a well-being right below the surface of life that you touch by being still and by stopping and letting go.
Yeah. And even just listening to you talk, it sounds like you do this 24 hours a day. Do you ever get out of that tire waiting room and get into the rat race? Does it get to you, all the normal stuff?
Not really. I mean, I make a lot of choices. Like if I'm going to the airport, I don't go like an hour before I have to be there. I go well in advance, so there's no stress about going to the airport. If I'm in an interpersonal interaction, I don't send an angry email. I just wait until I'm ready to like speak, in a respectful and kind way. It's because I'm 52. When I was 35, I was still learning these things. But so part of it is, part of yoga is like lifestyle stuff like that, like be wise in your speech, be kind in your interactions, and that will kind of create less stress in your life if you're not choosing conflict, but if you're choosing peace. Not from like a wishful thinking, but from a mature place. Like we can't kind of make people be different, And so we have to kind of learn to love beyond agreement,
Well,
and so there's that half of it, but then there's also the physical practice, which you were talking about in the room, where you learn to settle down physically.
Do you know, when I was younger, I used to play guitar and sing. And I played, most of my jobs were in bars because that's pretty much the only place I knew how to get a job playing music. But I was the folky kind of soft singer, so I didn't get the Friday night gigs. I got the Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday night gigs, okay? Well, I was playing at a Holiday Inn lounge up in New York, and after I was done, a guy gave me a can of sardines. And I said, thank you. He said, well, I don't have any money to tip you, but let me just tell you, I had the worst day, and you just brought me down. I mean, you just made me chill and with that music. So he was thanking me with a can of sardines. And I thought, well, music does that for me all the time. Not my own music necessarily, because if you're playing, you're not really into it. But if listening to music does it do it for you too?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the things. I think there's things that you can do that are really kind of easy, And my list of that is like, go sit in the forest, sit outside and enjoy nature, take a walk. Another thing that's really easy is listening to the right kind of music. And then, for some people, certainly for me, and something that's available to us always is just a prayer, Like we don't necessarily get to our yoga mat or our meditation cushion or to the gym, but we can always just say a prayer.
Yeah.
So there's some things that are easy. There's some things that are easy, and definitely music is easy.
And it seems like this also helps a person open up the lines of communication, because how stressed can people be, and then all of a sudden they'll lash out at something or an entity, and they won't have control of their thoughts, and they'll say something that comes out of their mouth that isn't really what they wanted to say in a very hateful way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what will be, what you just identified is that, there's a way that there's inner states that are conducive to kind of, healthy, happy, onward leading behavior, and there's inner states that are conducive to causing mayhem, And I think there's two things we can do with that information. One is we can have compassion for people who are acting from an unskillful state, because it's not the same person you'd meet if they were happy and relaxed.
Yeah, right.
So we have to cut each other some slack, that all of us can be in an unskillful state. And if we're in like hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, we're going to behave less well.
That's true. That's really true. My dad was a New York City policeman, and he retired here to Florida. That's how come I'm here. And his demeanor changed so much from having to do that daily thing of being a policeman for 20 years to coming down to this rural town in Florida. I mean, he became a different person. So and we lived in the woods when we moved down here. So it was like he went from being a city guy to a country guy, and you could see it in his demeanor, in his personality.
Yeah, and so there's like an inner climate and an outer climate that's conducive to kind of wise living, and there's an inner climate which is conducive to creating suffering. And just that acknowledgement, I think, can make us treat each other with more kind of compassion. That if someone's in that kind of a situation, kind of put yourself in his shoes. Can you imagine being a New York City cop? What that was like for him?
Really.
And so that's like one thing I'd like people to hear is that I think as a grown up, trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes is kind of a civic duty. The other thing, and that will reduce all the conflicts. Like right now we're kind of attached to conflict as a society, and I don't think that's
Right.
really, it's not all that mature. The other thing that is that, okay, so what factors can I put in place in my own life that creates the probability that I'll move from a place of gentleness, kindness, wisdom, and yoga is kind of that search. Like what factors do I put in place so that when I'm interacting with my kids and my wife, I'm being the person I want to be. It's that's a study of cause and effect. If I eat these foods, how do I feel? If I have these conversations, how do I feel?
Yeah.
If I take a long, slow, deep breath in and a long, slow, deep breath out, how do I feel? And then over time, just giving yourself, like treating yourself well. I think yoga is also about collecting a set of behaviors that work for you, and taking the time to give them to yourself so that you can give to others.
And that's one of the things, people make excuses as to why they can't fit something into their day, and usually those excuses aren't valid.
Yeah, especially when you think about like what is it? An ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure. I think that is something along that. That's what we're talking about. The other thing is that I do coaching, and pretty much people pay me a lot of money and they spend a lot of time with me, and I say to them, we can do all this, but what I'm really going to tell you is that you think that cutting down trees is important, but you don't think sharpening the blade of the axe is important. And so what we're going to do for the next 6 months is have me tell you, you got to sharpen the blade.
Oh, I like that. I like that metaphor.
Yeah.
It's
You got to sharpen the blade. Think of how frustrating it is to try to cut down trees with a blunt blade. That's why there's all that stress going on, is everyone's got a blunt blade.
Wow.
And because they've got a blunt blade, they don't have the time to sharpen. They're like, I can't sharpen. It's so hard to cut down any trees. I can't have the time to sharpen.
Wow. I want to, when we come back, Rolf, I have to take a break, but I want to ask you if you've witnessed people learning yoga, learning meditation, and then see that moment in them when they get that aha, to use an Oprah thing, the aha moment, when they finally get it. And I'm just curious about that. So let's take that break, and we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be mostly cloudy this Monday with a shower or thunderstorm around mainly during the afternoon hours, the high 74 to 78. Cloudy Monday night with off and on rain and even a rumble of thunder, low 60 to 64. For tomorrow, morning clouds and a shower or two, followed by some afternoon clearing, the high 75 to 79. Wednesday, a beautiful day with sunshine, high 70 to 74. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
All right, 19 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Rolf Gates is on the phone with us. His book is called Meditations on Intention and Being, and the subtitle, Daily Reflections on the Path of Yoga, Mindfulness, and Compassion. I get it so far. I really get it. But I don't know how you learn it. So that's what I want to ask now. And of course, the thing I said before the break of has he witnessed people who've learned it, who had a switch and they get turned on or off or something. Rolf, how do you learn this? It seems like when you picture yoga, you probably don't because you're in it, but the rest of us, you picture cross-legged sitting on the floor. I don't know why we picture that, but we do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the first thing I want to do is define what it is. I think, and I want to say that we're all learning it all the time. Yoga is basically saying that there's two things that human beings have found to be precious. One is to bring awareness to yourself, bring awareness to everything you do. Self-awareness and and situational awareness. To be able to bring awareness to your friends, to your family, to your world. The other thing that yoga is saying is precious is bring compassion. Everyone's fighting a hard battle. Bring understanding, bring kindness, bring generosity. And these aren't like yoga things. These are, I think, most religions. And, You know, this idea that to bring awareness and compassion to every step you take in life, but to make the effort.
Is that a dog?
You know, it's not like you're not supposed to be perfect, but just to make the effort.
Do you have a dog?
So yeah, I do.
Okay.
Oh, he sounds fun.
Yeah. So yeah, she's got someone walking by the house. So
Aww.
he's protective. So so everyone's working on this, and I think that's why yoga has become so popular. You get to a certain age and you realize that you don't need an Olympic gold medal, you don't need an Oscar. You just want to like treat your friends and family with some kindness. You know?
That's right. Boy, I love that. Yeah.
You know, and so you get to that point, and that's why people walk into yoga and they're kind of like they're beyond what's in it for me, and they're into like what's in it for we. You know, and then they hear that reflected back to them in yoga, and I think people have to really understand it. But what happens in yoga is you're not getting a new set of values. What's happening is your core values are being validated, and that's why people get excited. You know, is that the values of kindness, generosity, you know, and wisdom are like they're shared by every culture, every, you know, people, you know, so you can be in New York City. I taught New York City, for example. I have people from like Asia and Europe and the Caribbean islands, and they're all in the same room because it doesn't matter what culture you're from, you know.
Well,
let me just give you a couple things that yoga gets, you know. So there's that basic desire in a human heart, you know, that basic purity of intention that every human heart has, and then all it takes is just a little training. And our research is really showing that yoga trains the brain to be aware and to become emotionally wise, like emotional intelligence. And that happens you basically want, you know, with the time short that we have, people go to class and you find a community and a teacher that is working for you. There's yoga for all bodies, all ages. And before long, the student starts to learn how she can help herself. Like I think a teacher reminds students until they can remember.
Okay, that makes sense. Would a high stress job like what do you call it?
Air traffic controller.
Air traffic controller. Yeah, they said that's a high stress job. Mm-hmm. Would that person? I'm sure they'd be better off with learning how to meditate now and then. But have you known anybody with these high stress jobs, like a policeman or an air traffic controller, and then they use yoga and they don't retire yet? They're still working, but they somehow approach it differently?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a phrase, there is no fools and there are no wise men. There's only the presence or the absence of inner space. You know, that space between an action and a reaction. And so what you see is, like, I was in New York City, like at a studio, so people were at Wall Street, they were at the UN, you know, they were doing all this, like, the kind of stuff you're talking about. And I was in Union Square, actually. And you'd see the development of inner space where something would happen in a person's life, and they no longer had to just react. They could kind of feel into a situation. They could not know for a little while. They could, you know, and you know, there's two things happening. You know, so that they say the mind screams and the heart whispers. And as you get that inner space going for yourself, you can start to listen. You can listen to the whisper in the heart. And so, regardless of your walk of life, you know, moving from the heart is a very wise and effective way to move in life. And
so how do you?
Yes, go ahead.
So how do you train people to do that? I mean, aside from just telling them calm down and sit in the corner for a while, I mean, how do you learn this?
I'm going to give you something that's kind of neat to do, and maybe it won't translate to the on air, but I want you to take your right arm straight out in front of you.
Okay.
And I want you to engage every muscle in your arm as hard as you can.
Okay. I'm doing it.
Feel that, like.
I feel it.
Now get super soft with your arm, so your arm is like a limp rag.
Okay, good. I like it like that.
Yeah. Now find the middle between hot and cold. Just go right into the middle between hot and cold.
Okay, got it.
You find the middle?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Now relax. So what just made your arm go hot? What made it go cold? And what made it find the middle?
Effort.
The
your
mind,
central nervous system.
the
nervous system.
The mind
okay,
and the heart, the difference.
So the way I train someone is I retrain their central nervous system. most people are going to react going hot, or they're going to react going cold. And I teach the central nervous system the habit of finding the middle, kind of that calm space between, hyperactivity and, like there's a phrase, we will be in life without needing to abandon or coerce, And so we won't go to those two polarities. We won't be in our relationships, right? Either you do it the way I'm doing it, or I'm going to leave. We're going to find the middle, and we teach the central nervous system to become accustomed to finding the middle path in life through the body, because the central nervous system is what's initiating all. That's what the poses are doing. You're in this pose, find the middle. That pose, find the middle. Eventually, you're sitting, find the middle.
And you help people with your book because you've got 365 inspirational daily reflections. You give a person guidance and a roadmap, so to speak, as to how they can help themselves do this.
Yes, and it's just something that, there's short little things you can read in the morning, and that can kind of get your start, jumpstart you, for the day, and kind of orient you. Oh yeah, this is what I'm trying to accomplish today, And so I just think that we get well together. We need each other. And sometimes in everyday life, you're not going to be able to go to your Bible study or your yoga class or your meditation. You're not going to have your community available, but you can. What books can do is make you kind of check in with your community, even though you're not going to physically do it. And you got to be reminded, there's a way that together we can accomplish what on our own we can't. And so a daily reflections book is that moment of togetherness where together we remember something of value, and then you go out and try to live it.
My gosh, I'm getting it somewhat. I'll have to look at the book. It's called Meditations on Intention and Being. Before we run out of time, give the listeners some information so they can either look you up or look the book up. Do you have a website, Rolf?
Yeah, so my website's rolfgates.com. And everything I do, on an annual basis is up there, so you can find out how you could study with me, or the trainings I offer, but also, my book, both of my books, Meditations from the Mat and Meditations on Intention and Being, are available where all books are sold. So that's like Amazon and everything else. A lot of stuff.
Did you find out that you sort of like forced yourself to be this way because you were a high anxiety person in the beginning?
No, for me it was I got sober when I was 26. And so that's like, studying your life and making a change. And I went to 12-step meetings, and they're all about, developing a spiritual practice in order to get well in your life. And so it was a very short step from a 12-step program to a yoga class, because it's all the same thing. You're really living on purpose, instead of by, default. And I think an addict is just doing what's familiar, and 12-step programs kind of teach you to look at the familiar and make good choices. This is familiar, but is it a good idea?
Yeah.
And you go from there, And so yoga, I started doing yoga about a year and a half after I got sober. I felt that getting sober was a perfect preparation for yoga.
Do you know what's weird? I mean, when you talk about vices, one of my vices used to be cigars. I haven't smoked maybe in 8 years, but actually, even though that's unhealthy, I actually got into this zone. This I don't know. It was relaxing for me, even though it was bad for me. It was.
Well, someone said about cigarette smokers and cigar smokers is that one of the 8 limbs of yoga is breath work. And I think what's happening when you're going outside with your cigar is you have this ritual where you're sitting down, you're getting comfortable, and then you're focusing on your breathing.
Yeah.
And like, if you really like that cigar, you're going to really, so what I tell people is, as you're breathing in, know that you're breathing in. And as you're breathing out, know that you're breathing out. Like, what's someone doing with a cigar? They're really present for the in-breath.
That's true. That's true.
And they're really present for the out-breath. You're tasting and enjoying the experience. Now, of course, you're, not so slowly killing yourself. So I can't.
Right. I know.
Right.
I know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird.
The mechanics of it are right out of like Yoga 101. So as you're breathing in, bring attention to that.
That is.
As you're breathing out.
That is
Yoga 101.
That is pretty interesting. Rolf, thank you so much for being on the air with us today. Good luck with the book. You've just got a calming way about you, even the way you talk.
Very much so.
Go to Rolf.
Thank you.
Rolf, ROLF Gates, rolfgates.com, and you'll be able to. Plus, we'll put this interview plus the website link on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. Thank you, Rolf. And where are you right now? Are you in California or up north?
Yeah, I live in Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, okay. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Turkish claim that the Kurds, who control a big patch of land to the west of the main route north, are blocking the movement of refugees. There's no independent verification for that whatsoever.
Sam Kiley of Sky News. Wall Street is closed today for President's Day. Fox News, we report, you decide.